Welcome. If you like this content, if you want to see more of it, I implore you to hit the like button down there, the subscribe button, get your notifications going if you're into that, and possibly hit up the Patreon and become a contributing member to make all of this possible. Right? Welcome everybody to Comfortable Lies. I'm your host Harry. And today we are going to be talking about fear porn and manufactured outrage. Welcome to Mind Your Media. So, to start this out, in all honesty, I'm going to really define my terms, and I think it's fair because when certain people are talking about fear porn and manufactured outrage, they're not talking about the same things that I am talking about. And in all due respect, it's not that I don't see the point of their definitions. It's just I feel that their definitions are more situational to what they're confronting and what they're talking about, as opposed to my definitions, which are more of a wider, broad stroke on what's going on. Because that's really the point of Comfortable Lies, is to talk about society as a whole and not just this little tiny subset. What do I mean by manufactured outrage? Well, manufactured outrage is the false, righteous indignation or outrage over a inconsequential issue. I guess is the best way of putting it. Frequently, this is employed by public personalities, and that's where it starts. I'm really more concerned about the root of the problem than the symptoms, the branches, the leaves, and what have you. Love my tree analogy. The root is the problem. Where does manufactured outrage come from? It comes from major media outlets, politicians, celebrities, public figures. So I use the term public figures to blanket all of these people. The regular day-to-day general citizen plays a minor role in this, in the fact that they perpetuate the outrage rather than actually instigate it in the first place. Now, how it differs from fear porn is that fear porn, might as well define it too, right? Is media content that deliberately exaggerates fear-inducing risks. And to be completely fair, public figures do this as well. Your politicians do this, celebrities promote these things. So it's not necessarily all, ooh, the media is bad, but the media is how all of these messages get out. So even if a politician is saying something in the Capitol or in the White House, it's in the form of a press release that it gets out to the general public. So responsibility really falls on media, hence the title, Mind Your Media. How do these things differ and how are they similar? Well, it's really in how it works that they're similar. Fear and rage are negative emotions, and I'm going to get a little sappy, hippy-dippy on you guys, so I apologize. Let me go over here. fear and rage are negative emotions, meaning that they have negative physical connotations. Your body reacts negatively when you have these emotions. I understand that there's a lot of people out there who seem to think if I stay angry, I'm a better person. You're not. You're literally not. You are a worse person and you're less healthy for it. Positivity goes a long way, a lot further than you think. With that being said, manufactured outrage and fear porn are negative emotion machines. They make you feel bad. Whether they make you feel angry or afraid, it's still a bad feeling. It's a feeling of discomfort. You want to go away. The problem is, not only are you inundated with these messages via social media, and if you recall last week how I spoke that social media was the best communication tool that has ever been invented and the worst weapon that we used against the individual. Well, here you go. You're inundated with these messages via social media, via media sources, via your television, and constantly reminded of these things. When you have negative emotions, it clouds your intellect and it disrupts your reasoning, and that's by design. You are put in a state of shock, for lack of a better term. And the other problem is when your judgment, when your intellect and your reasoning is clouded, your judgment isn't there. Being angry and being afraid pushes you further into the subject. I believe the best way to put it, germaphobe. A germaphobe is afraid of getting sick, afraid of catching germs. So they end up, in severe cases, obsessively washing their hands to the point where it's doing damage to their skin. And because their skin feels bad, their irrational fear, now when I say phobia, I mean it's an irrational fear. Their irrational fear makes them feel that their hands are dirty because they hurt. So they wash their hands, which causes more damage, which then starts physically manifesting in abraded skin, very thin skin that breaks easily and causes them to wash their hands more. And this is what fear porn and manufactured outrage do. They inundate you with these messages, make you feel bad, and you think in the back of your head, if you just delve deeper, you'll get that validation, that vindication that you need to stop feeling so bad. And all that happens is it makes you feel worse and worse and worse, drawing you in. This controls you. It makes you its bitch. And that's the reality. That's how it works. And now, a message from our sponsor, Indy Learning Music Tutor. And we're back. One thing to note, and this has to do with how the individuals are involved in the whole conversation about manufactured outrage and fear porn. More times than not, the media focuses on a very vocal minority to keep that story going, to keep that outrage going, to keep that fear going. And it's important to realize that without the input of the average Joe citizen, these stories would probably last a whopping 15 to 20 minutes, but the very vocal minorities involved in any side of any type of outrage or fear are what keep that conversation going. Even if you do agree with some of the things that some people are saying, 9 times out of 10, you'll be like, okay, I agree with you on this one point, but the rest of what you're saying is coming from Crazy Town, and the media latches on to those people because those people get attention because they say crazy shit. There's a pastor up in Washington State. Every once in a while, he will throw out another gem of insanity from his pulpit, and he posts it straight to Twitter, and everyone gives him attention, and that's really what it's about. The vocal minority just wants attention, and the media supplies that to them. So why does the media use it? Is it because it's ethical? I argue no. Using manufactured outrage and fear porn is completely unethical. There is absolutely no ethical basis for using these tactics in the best light. Giving credit, it's horribly misleading, and in the worst light, it's downright lying. It's a giant disservice to the entire profession of journalism. The whole point of the press being free isn't so that they can lie to you, it's so that they can't be pressured by government to lie to you or to omit truth. And by the press not being really stepping up to that plate of being the arbiters of truth and bringing the story to you for you to decide how you feel about it, and rather reporting how you should be feeling about anything that comes across their table, is, to be fair, detrimental to the whole idea of truth. Let's be fair here. So it's not an ethical practice at all. It does nothing that even remotely resembles an ethical journalistic integrity. I don't know. It has zero journalistic integrity, and in the end, it's harmful to the trust of the people, because when the truth does finally come out, well, they go, well, the media lied to us. No shit. Because the media isn't journalism anymore. It's infotainment, So let's go over here while we talk about why they use it. Well, why do they use it then? If it's unethical, if it's lying, if it's a violation of journalistic integrity, why in the world would major media, who are supposed to be journalists, engage in such practices? Well, obviously it gives audience retention. Fear messages and manufactured messages of outrage, manufactured or not, always mean better ratings. Better ratings mean you can charge more for ad space. And that's point 2 there, ad sales. You can sell ad space if people are just glued to their TV or glued to your site looking for the next thing to be mad about or to be afraid of, or to look for the next move that they need to make because they're mad about something or they're afraid of something. Negative emotion machine, remember? Donations. To be completely fair, a lot of manufactured outrage really leads to like donation efforts, which become tax write-offs for some people. become financial windfalls for some people, because as a donation manager, you do get to set yourself a salary. It's one of the very large problems with corporate charity in the United States. Sure, you're giving your money, but are they giving your money? And some of the charities have a 90% retention fee of your donation. So for every dollar you're giving, someone's getting 10 cents. And that's all on the up and up and all legal in the United States. Welcome to the U.S. So there's gigantic financial incentive. Ad sales, donations, monetization of YouTube, of Facebook, of your WordPress sites. All of these things can be monetized, and audience retention is 100% how you get monetized. And you know, just as I was saying the story with the pastor, attention. Is he outraged about abortions? Probably. Is the general public really outraged about abortions? Not so much. There's been plenty of studies done where, you know, many of the things that have been trended outrages have literally just been nothing in the real world. So that's really food for thought when it comes to manufactured outrage, fear porn, and why the media harps on using these things. These tactics are financially beneficial to them, and they have thrown the journalistic integrity of following the truth in the dustbin. So much for that, right? And now a word from our sponsor, the Sacred Agora. The Sacred Agora, your one-stop shop for musical instruments, music lessons, art, and graphic design. Please visit us at thesacredagora.shopify.com. And thank you. And we're back. So, what are some examples? Well, we are chock full of them. And this has really no political designator whatsoever. As far as the United States, normally I try to keep it a little bit balanced between the left and the right, or the Democrats and the Republicans, because there's really no left in the United States. Excuse me. But some general subject matters that we have seen fear porn and manufactured outrage firsthand. The terror. Terror has been a giant fear porn hot button issue since the 70s, really. In softcore up until obviously September 11th, 2001, when it became the main fear porn to deal with. When are the terrorists going to come and take over the United States? Blah 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 blah. Rah 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 rah. These Middle Eastern men are coming to steal our freedoms. I can easily dissect how this is actual fear porn, and it was a craze that basically took over the entire United States, preparing for the end of the world. You know, this was like doom prophecy fear porn. It was pretty bad. Almost as bad as Y2K. I mean, well, it was worse than Y2K because people actually died. So, you know, in a sense, it was worse than Y2K. But in reality, the media machine pushed that narrative. It was a horrible event that happened. A horrible event that happened. I am not questioning the event. I'm questioning the media reaction. And the media reaction actually got help from the entertainment industry. If you look at music and movies that started from that era forward, you will find a very different feel than prior. There's massive amounts of nationalism, massive amounts of government save us from these foreign monsters, xenophobia. There's a lot. Entertainment media backing up the news media. And then the social network machine that was implemented after the fact just pushed that even further. The war on drugs. And this is a manufactured outrage, really, more so than fear porn. It used to be fear porn back in the 50s, 40s, with reefer madness and the Schedule 1 classification of entheogens, things that were considered medicine up until the United States government decided that they didn't want them to be medicine anymore. Why? I am not touching that. That is a whole an hour worth of fucking subject matter, really. So, but the media campaign was fear-based back then, and then it became manufactured outrage-based now, because, you know, who are the people that use drugs? What are they doing? Well, they're committing crimes. They're evil people. They are predominantly people of color, and this is what was being said. Whether or not that's true, it's not. But the reality is that this is a case of manufactured outrage at this point. The only thing keeping cannabis being a Schedule 1 drug federally is manufactured outrage. There's a small, very vocal group of people who think that when you shoot up the marijuanans that you die, and the government is using that to justify keeping Schedule 1, when really the justification for the federal government keeping Schedule 1 on cannabis is money. I mean, Hillary Clinton said it herself. We have too much money invested in the drug war to stop it. There you go. There's your reality check there for you. The race issue. Now, when I say this, I'm going to explain that over the summer of 2020, there were riots in the United States. There were race riots in the United States, and that was not manufactured outrage. Let's be completely fair. Police brutality is a problem in the United States, and it's a problem that's not going to be solved by government. Just you know, put a little check mark, highlight that phrase right there. Police brutality is not a problem that is ever going to be solved by government. The manufactured outrage part of that was really the cause of the riots, because people just weren't being heard about, hey, I don't want people that look like me just being shot by police because they look like me, because that could be me someday. I think that's fair. The manufactured part of it is this whole list of statistics that white nationalist groups were parading around about how, oh, well, this many white people are encountered by police as compared to this many people of color, and they completely ignore the law of large numbers. There's 70% of this country are white people. The other 30% are split between all of the different people of color. That's Asians, Latinos, and Black and African Americans. And the reality is, the rates don't stack up. If we use law of large numbers and we go and take the amount of black people who are harmed by police and apply it to 70% of the population, we find that, there's a much larger amount of white people that should be getting harassed and abused by police. And it's just not happening. People do like to use statistics to mislead people. It's one of the main tools when you're manufacturing outrage and when you're selling fear porn. So, there you go. Another example is this push of sexism that the United States government or the society as a whole devalues women, pays them less, and again, this is all statistical games. The whole idea of feminism, modern feminism, is based on a bunch of statistical information that inherently is untrue. Because when you take the statistics and you actually analyze them number for number, none of it adds up. And that leads me to the next manufactured outrage, the LGBTQ community. Now, I'm not going to lie. In recent history, they've had a very rough go at it. It was not only something society did, but it was legally permissible to cage and institutionalize people who are part of the LGBTQ community up until the 70s. And even in a lot of countries in the world, to this day, if you are LGBTQ, you can go to jail for it. You can be killed for it in some countries. In the United States, that has not been the case for decades, 40, 50 years. And granted, 40, 50 years is not a long time. It's the same thing I say about the civil rights movement. 40, 50, 60 years is not a long time to say, well, we amended the laws in respect to race. It's not a long time. And it's not a long time that we amended the laws in respect to people who are not cisgendered and heteronormative. It's not been a long time. And we got a long way to go before we can really say they're being treated equally under the law. But to claim that there's a 1 in 12 chance that a transgender person is going to be the victim of a homicide is a lie. It's a statistic that was taken from Central America, a Central American country that being transgendered is illegal. The statistics for violence, when we apply the law of large numbers and we go and put those ratios to the general population, they fit. It's not a case of society hating people because they're LGBTQ. Are there people who do? Yes, of course. There are always going to be people, but again, very vocal minority, causing all sorts of problems, and that's the sum of it. I mean, if you ask across the general society, you know, you know, do you care if there are gay people? No one cares. No one gives a shit what goes on in people's bedrooms. You know, everyone just wants the same rules applied to everybody. If it's considered a really bad idea to have sex in the street, it doesn't matter if you're gay or if you're straight. Just don't do it. I mean, I'm whatever, you know, whatever floats your boat, but the structure of society that which we happen to live in, it's just frowned upon to, you know, whip it out and put it to your partner. Whether you're gay or straight is irrelevant. As far as the transgender thing, it's a little bit more nuanced, and I openly admit that. There are challenges, I guess we could say, but in reality, most of society doesn't give a flying fuck. And the people in society that do need to stop getting so much attention for wanting to spread negative emotion. And finally, this one's kind of sort of a hot button. I'm pretty sure I might actually catch some hate if anyone ever actually watches these things. Trump. There's been a lot of manufactured outrage surrounding former President Trump. And there's a reason why, and I've gone into it ad nauseum, so I'm not going to even bother. I'm just going to let you know that your outrage is manufactured, and you really should just let him go away, because that's probably the best option. Keeping him in the limelight is really just feeding into this narrative that he is some sort of powerful monster that is going to destroy the world, and he's just an impotent, fat, rich dude. Let him go be impotent, fat, and rich. There you go. And now a final word from our sponsor, the network. So, in summation, what do we do about manufactured outrage, fear porn? Well, one of the articles I used to research this was written by a gentleman named Parker Malloy. He writes on Medium.com. He's a freelance author, and he has some suggestions, and I'm literally going to just parrot what his points were and elaborate them with my own words. So, you know, hat tip to Parker Malloy. Check him out. He seems like a pretty reasonable dude. There you go. So, when we're confronted with media outrage, you know, something we may have very little or no awareness of, or no feelings towards, we have to ask ourselves 4 questions. Is this something people are genuinely angry about, or is this something people genuinely should fear? And this requires people to actually look into these issues. Robert Anton Wilson, in Prometheus Rising has a bunch of exercises to try and help you rid yourself of bias. I honestly heavily suggest reading Robert Anton Wilson, a brilliant mind, and definitely someone I would put up on the guru of removing media bias from your life. You know, he has a very subjective view of reality, but he approaches it with objective rigor, if that makes sense. And you're gonna have to look at things that you don't necessarily agree with. You know, look into articles that are against your bias. If you constantly go to one news channel, if you're a Republican and you're constantly on Fox News, or you're a Democrat and you're constantly on MSNBC, look and see what the opposing view is, and try to find something that is just fact-based. So science, in the realm of science, just look for peer-reviewed articles and look for the facts surrounding this source of fear or outrage, and try to decide for yourself if this is something that people are genuinely angry about or just being told to be angry about. And then ask yourself, once you've collected this information and you come to the decision whether or not the people who you're being told are angry, if they are genuinely angry about the thing, or they're genuinely afraid of the thing. You know, we'll just call it the thing. Then, you know, reason out for yourself. Is this something someone shouldn't like, or is this something that someone should be concerned about? You know, you have to do your own risk management, your own threshold management. You have to, you know, have some integrity on what your principles are, and then go, well, with these principles, should I be outraged by this piece of news that I just got? Should I be afraid of this piece of news I just got? And then, if by chance you think that maybe there's something to this story, really look into seeing if there is a massive call to action, or if it's just some very loud minority group. When I say minority, I mean small group of people, the vocal minority, not minorities in the race sense. But see if there's an actual large call to action about the particular subject. Police brutality, there was absolutely a large call to action for. And to take Parker Malloy's example of how manufactured rage happened to something that he had tweeted, the name of a color of a lipstick, maybe there isn't really a large call to action. Maybe it's just media, and media forcing it to trend, and then therefore everyone's got to put their 2 cents in about, you know, what's going on. Going back, social media, worst possible weapon. All right, so then you really have to ask yourself, is investing yourself emotionally into this adding anything? Does it help at all? Is being mad, is being afraid worth it? Does it add to the conversation? Does it enrich the conversation? Does it in any way, shape, or form bring us closer to a solution to the problem? And if the answer is no, then why take part in it? If you can systematically check through these things, and even if it starts out, yeah, yeah, and then no, no. You shouldn't really, if that last answer is no, then you should never take leave of your reason, take leave of your intellect, and become completely emotionally engrossed in an issue. It's literally how the media controls you. And I think that's it. The comfortable lie? Well, the men in suits, the important people, they would never lie to us, they would never mislead us, and they would never, ever think of using their platform to control public opinion about nonsensical issues for any reason whatsoever. They wouldn't want us to be angry and afraid unless there was a real reason to be angry and afraid. It's a tale as old as time. The Romans did it. Why wouldn't this empire do it if the other empires did it? We just have more efficient ways, I suppose we could say, at making this happen. And then we, in turn, end up doing it to ourselves. So mind your media. Make sure you're doing your due diligence to not lose yourself in the bread and circuses. Because it doesn't look like we're winning that fight at this point. Well, this has been Comfortable Lies. And stay safe out there. Have a great day.